Tommy Robinson brought receipts. He didn't yell. He didn't provoke. He just opened the Quran, and Piers didn't know what to say.
The former leader of the English Defence League, Tommy Robinson, has caused fury after accusing the Finsbury Park Mosque of creating terrorists.
Well, after the terror attack last night, he tweeted, "The mosque where the attack happened tonight has a long history of creating terrorists and radical jihadists and promoting hate and segregation."
And he joins us now. Tommy Robinson, thanks very much for coming in this morning. You followed up that particular tweet with another one. Finsbury Park Mosque was a UK government-protected planning centre for hundreds of jihad attacks, plots which killed British soldiers and children. The fact of the matter is, Finsbury Park Mosque is a pioneering mosque doing all sorts of great community work. By implying that it's somehow involved in terrorism, is actually whipping up a feeling which is not helpful considering what happened yesterday.
When you say...
So let's just first hear that you just heard from the question of the interviewer, her perspective on the mosque that they are discussing, right? It's a wonderful place that does wonderful things. Now let's hear the response.
All I done was repeat what newspapers across our country have said. Those were facts. The facts are that it did create terrorists. It was a hotbed for jihadists. That's a fact. That's all I've done, was give the history, and that's from many of the newspapers, one of the newspapers you work for, Piers. So it's not me saying it.
You can't innocently stand back and say, putting something so provocative out there, a historical piece of information about a mosque which is now absolutely at the forefront of counter-extremism, winning awards for the good work that it's doing on integration. You can't stand back and say, I'm putting out this rather inflammatory tweet and piece of historical information and say, oh, but all I'm doing is just stating facts.
I'm stating facts. Do you know who Mohammed...
What's the purpose of putting that out
if
there?
you read in context with the rest of the tweets, the rest of my tweets, that's not in context. There was a whole flurry of tweets where I was saying how I condemn the attack as barbaric, as wrong. Do you know who Mohammed Savala is? No?
I'm sure you're about to tell us.
Well, he's a trustee at the mosque. He signed the Istanbul Declaration, which called for... He's the trustee now at the pioneering mosque. He called for British troops to be killed. He signed the Istanbul Declaration. He was also a mastermind for the military campaign for a terrorist organisation, Hamas. So, and when you talk about a pioneering, do you know who Abdullah Jabbar is? No?
Unfortunately,
do you know who?
So you can cast out all
I'm not
sorts
casting out
of
a name, but
criticisms and aspersions
what I'm
on these
giving you...
people. We don't have them on the programme for a right of reply.
No, but okay. Well, what I'm telling you is that hate preachers are still speaking at that mosque. Muslim Brotherhood...
Which mosque?
At the Finsbury Park Mosque.
That's not where the attack was.
No, but no, you've come on and you're talking to me about the Finsbury Park Mosque.
No,
because it's what you tweeted about.
Here's my point, Tom. Here's my point, right? I've read a lot of stuff that you've said and done. I know your history. Right? I know all of it. Good, bad and ugly. Some of it's ugly and some of it I agree with, right? My issue with what you did yesterday was that within 1 hour of this utter lunatic, this terrorist, driving from Wales and deliberately mowing down innocent people, as it turned out all Muslims, outside the Muslim welfare house, not the Finsbury Park Mosque, killing one, maiming maybe 10 others, is that your first thought process was not to express sympathy for what had happened. Oh, hang on. I read the tweets in sequential order, right? That within 1 hour, your thought process was to go on the attack, to talk about another mosque, not the one that had been attacked, to talk about it in historical context of when everyone knows the Finsbury Park Mosque at the turn of the century was a bad place with Abu Hams and everything else, right? And what you were doing was fomenting hatred and almost suggesting that somehow this attack, this revenge attack, as you put it, was in somehow deserving because of the historical behaviour of certain people at a completely different mosque. Okay, that was my problem.
Okay, Piers. The newspaper you work for said exactly the same within an hour. Abu Hamza's mosque. Were they fomenting hate, that newspaper that you work for? Were they? Were they inciting hate?
Well, I don't
know.
No, please.
I don't run the Daily Mail.
Okay, but you've just said I was. So was the newspaper you work for who said exactly the same within an hour?
I have no responsibility for the Daily Mail. I write columns for Daily Mail. Okay. I'm not asking you about the Daily Mail.
Okay, can I explain?
I'm asking you just to simply explain why, within 1 hour of this terrorist attack, your first thought process was to go on the attack about another mosque and to point out to people that it was basically a terror hotbed of jihadis, with the clear implication that somehow what happened that night was a deserved revenge attack.
See, the first point that he's making is that why are you accusing me of Islamophobia, but you won't accuse the press that is a more liberal press, perhaps, I don't know which press they're talking about, that says the exact same thing. That's point number one. This is the ongoing high-level hypocrisy that goes on in media.
If I have gone,
well, why would you talk about?
I'll talk now. I've talked now. For 10 years, I've been banging my head and trying to prevent the situation we're in. Yeah. Now, every single mosque. I could tell you things in 10 minutes. When we look what happened in Manchester, yeah, we looked at look what happened in Manchester. This is from the Disbury Mosque where Salman Abedi went. This is a leaflet. 650,000 of these were given out to British mosques last year. Living in a society in which people have accepted Western lifestyle as their way of life brings immorality at every step. Modesty, shame and honour have no place in Western civilization. These are the views that are being perpetrated. Now, this is a book from the children's section of Didsbury Mosque. It says, "The music made me do it." Now, in this book...
What does this have to do with your tweets the other night?
Because we need to know what's happening in mosques.
Yeah, but I'm asking you... but hang on, we can come to other mosques in a minute. And there are issues where you have rightly, in my view, flagged up issues with the more Wahhabi type of mosque preaching in this country, which I think is a serious concern. My issue with where you come from on this is driven by the fact that you appear to be an Islamophobe, somebody that is hateful of Islam. You believe that the root cause of all this is Islam, not Islamist terrorists who abuse the Quran and abuse Islam to justify their violence, right? Okay. That's my problem with where you come from. And I want to play you a video. Now, you know about... I'm going to play you a video.
On the point you've just made.
I need to play you the video so you can make your point. Right, let's just play a video. This is you talking about the 7/7 attacks, right? And the reason it's significant is because I want you to explain what you meant when you said this.
Yep, fine.
Every single Muslim watching this video on YouTube, on 7/7, you got away with killing and maiming British citizens. You got away with it.
Look, here's my question for you, right? That's not just an anti-Islam statement that you're making to what was an EDL rally. This is 2011, so years after 7/7. You're saying every single Muslim...
Listen to this, watch this.
Let me finish my question and then I'll give you the time to answer. Every single Muslim got away with killing and maiming British citizens.
That's not worded how I said it.
Well, we've just heard...
but that's not worded how I said it.
We've just heard what you said.
Every single Muslim listening to this.
Right.
Yeah? Every single Muslim listening to this.
Right.
I didn't say every single Muslim got away with it. I said so that's a context.
What's the difference?
Because every single Muslim listening to this, I want them to... My job was leader of the English Defence League. We were a pressure movement. I was trying to put pressure on the Islamic community to deal with their in-house problems.
You said every single Muslim.
Listening to this.
What's the difference?
Well, I wanted every single Muslim at home to listen to this. And
but you said to them, every single Muslim watching this video, you got away with killing and maiming British citizens. Let's just play it again so we can be sure.
We can go over.
Every single Muslim watching this video on YouTube, on 7/7, you got away with killing and maiming British citizens. You got away with it.
Now, unless I'm mistaken, you are addressing all Muslims in that statement, right?
Yep.
You accept that?
I accept that.
And so my issue again to you is, it's a bit like with this guy from Wales who perpetrated this terror attack, me now doing a video and saying every single white person in Britain, right, this is, if I was a Muslim, you just got away with killing and maiming our people.
Yep.
What would your reaction be?
Well, I'll explain now. Piers, when I said that, which I've come out and accepted that I shouldn't have said it in those words, I've already done that. The video you've just picked, why haven't you picked the video after Lee Rigby was beheaded? Where in that video, in my first speech, I said there are 600 Muslims serving in the British Armed Forces who are doing a hell of a lot more than most of us. Yeah? If you attack a Muslim woman walking down the street, you're a coward. If you attack a mosque, you're a moron. So there's obviously an agenda to only pick this. That's the one video...
It's not an agenda. It's one of the most... As you know, it's one of the most widely viewed videos of yours on the internet. If you Google your name, which I did yesterday, that's what comes up. And again, I say to you, Tommy, I've had a lot of reaction to the column I wrote about you yesterday, or about this story, and a lot of people were agreeing with you, right? So you have a powerful and influential voice.
And every single opportunity, I make a difference between the followers of Islam, people, and the idea.
Okay, well,
do you still? Let me finish my question.
Okay,
do you still believe?
That's 7 years ago.
Well, okay, but you don't allow the Finsbury Park Mosque a chance to redeem themselves.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
No, your first thought process after this attack was to tell people.
It wasn't your newspaper's first thought process.
It's not my newspaper.
I took what
it's
the
not my newspaper.
We had the tweet you tweeted,
Tommy. Yeah. We had the tweet you tweeted. That is not you moving on from Finsbury Park Mosque or allowing them to evolve or change.
Okay.
That is you telling everybody Finsbury Park Mosque is a jihadi terrorist hotbed, right? That's what you're saying in that tweet.
I said it was. Now,
why are they not allowed to move on, but you are?
Just notice how Piers will not let him speak, which is just outrageous.
The man who's just done this attack. Say we trace it back and we find that he went to a centre in Cardiff. And in that centre in Cardiff, there was 4 speakers. And those 4 speakers were killing for the murder of Muslims. What will happen?
No, Let
me finish. No, let me finish. What would happen is it would be shut down and they would be arrested. Now, Didsbury Mosque, it had one imam, Muhammad Adam, said that if you see non-Muslims walking down the street, you make sure they cross the other side. Yeah, you do not say salam to them, do not show them respect. If people, another hate preacher. No, please let me finish.
I agree with you about.
Piers, let me finish. Piers, please let me finish. No.
Hate preachers.
Let me finish because you want to know
why. Who are you trying to persuade with this?
No, I'm trying to explain to you why we're in the situation we're in. People see no light at the end of the tunnel. After that attack in Manchester, where and this is hatred against music. He targeted a kids' concert. He could recite the Quran without looking at it. The imam from that mosque was fighting jihad for years in Libya. Okay, please let me finish. Please, Piers, let me finish.
No, because you're missing my point.
No, you're missing the point. I'll get to the point. This mosque, okay, so we've got people inciting murder against non-Muslims. What has been the reaction? Has any politician spoke about that mosque? Has anyone done anything about that mosque? They haven't. Do you know what the police done? The police went and stood next to him holding a sign saying "Stronger Together." Stronger Together. They've been inciting hatred and murder against us. That mosque needs to be shut down. And other mosques. No, please let me finish.
You need to stop talking.
When the British public see this, when the British public see these things, and they see ISIS fighters walking on streets, you understand it's going to create the problem you saw this week.
We all understand this. And by the way,
so unless you talk about it, unless the British public are allowed,
we have been talking about little else for the last 3 months on this programme. I have said many things similar to you.
You haven't. You've been brave.
So here's my point. This is not about me saying everything you say is wrong. My problem comes.
What's wrong with my accent?
Let me finish.
The way I talk, my background.
Mate, we both went to comprehensive schools, right?
You went to
I went to a state school, mate.
Yeah, you went to a school in Surrey.
No, I didn't. I went to a school in Sussex called Chailey Comprehensive, right? Don't play the class card with me.
You know nothing. You know nothing.
I know a lot about
growing up in Luton. You know nothing about growing up in Luton.
No, I didn't grow up in Luton.
You haven't watched your town decay. You haven't seen. I travel this country meeting families whose daughters have been raped, who are desperate. The British public are desperate for this problem to be solved. You want to talk about the radicalising factor as to why this attack? No, we need to talk about why this attack happens. We need to.
Calm down.
We have to.
Calm down and let me respond to you. I'm not saying nothing you say has merit, right? I have argued the same points about the Wahhabi preaching in mosques in this country, the extremism. I've urged Muslims, the decent law-abiding Muslims, to root out extremists. My problem with you is that you conflate Islamist terrorism with all Muslims.
No, with Islam.
Well, we've just seen a video where you talked about
7 years ago, Piers, come on.
The Finsbury Park Mosque stuff you're talking about was 15 years ago. If they're not allowed to be
I've just told you that.
So are you.
Piers, can I ask? Okay, what do you know about Islam?
A lot.
Okay, have you read the biography of Muhammad?
Yes, I've read the Quran. I've read the Quran.
Yes, I have.
Have you read the Bible?
Yes. Have you read the biography of Muhammad?
Which has more violence in it?
Piers, have you read the biography of Muhammad? What do you know about the Prophet Muhammad?
Which has more...
Just ask me a question, please. What do you know about the Prophet Muhammad?
Here's how this programme works.
You said in your newspaper article yesterday...
You are a guest on our programme, and I asked the questions with Suzanne.
I would like you
to just clarify this. Do you believe, as you did in 2011, that all Muslims are accountable...
Of course I don't.
So do you apologise for what you said?
I've already apologised on national TV when I left the English Defence League and joined a Muslim counter-extremism think tank, which again in your article you didn't want to talk about yesterday. Now, as I could say, you said yesterday...
Let me ask you another question.
Piers, please, why am I not allowed to finish one thing I'm saying?
Do you believe more Muslims should be allowed into our country?
Do I believe more?
Yes.
How would you tell who those Muslims are or where they come from?
I'm just asking you, would you have a ban, like Donald Trump suggested in America, would you have a ban on Muslims entering the country, new Muslims trying to have a home in this country?
I believe we need to protect the British public right now.
So what's the answer to the question?
British Muslims?
Yeah, the British public. I didn't say British non-Muslim public. I said the British public. We've had
Would you ban?
We've had
Tommy,
three
you're a
terror
straight
attacks.
Talker.
Children are being killed.
Yes, we all know what's been happening.
Yes, I would. I would stop.
You would ban all Muslims.
I would temporarily halt Muslim immigration to this country until we get a grip of the problem. Now, again, Piers, you said in your newspaper yesterday that I was...
It's not my newspaper.
You said in your article yesterday to the national newspaper, you acted like I was ignorant and I was stupid, OK? I was ignorant. You have not...
I didn't call you either of those things.
You did.
I said you were violent because you have a long record of criminal convictions for violence. You led a hooligan firm at Luton.
Piers,
Your name is not even Tommy Robinson. You renamed yourself after the leader of Luton Football Club's main hooligan gang,
Piers,
Men in Gear, right? You accept all that, do you?
Yeah, I do. I've not come here.
You have a record
I've
of
not come here
violence.
to have a slandering match with you because that doesn't get this cause anywhere. I want to do a public service. I want to address the issues. I want to talk about why we've got dead kids in Manchester. I want to prevent what's happening. I haven't come here for you to... I could pick things with your history. You're involved in one of the biggest media scandals in the country's history. I'm not here to do that with you.
Well,
I think what you've done over the last 3 weeks, you've repeated what I've said for 10 years, speaking better English. And in 3 years' time, you'll be repeating what I'm saying now because you're all playing catch-up.
Okay.
I have seen this. I'm not talking about what I read in a book. I'm talking about my life experience. I'm talking about growing up in a town plagued by Islamic extremism.
I understand this. Let me just keep this calm, right? Because you are an influential
It's not calm,
voice. You are an influential
And at every
voice.
opportunity, I point out that you should not attack innocent Muslims. At every opportunity, every single time, I differentiate Muslims from Islam.
Right.
Okay?
But what you don't do...
differentiate Muslims...
Muslims are people. Islam is an idea.
Yeah.
Islam's an idea, a bad idea.
And
Islam is a
Muslims
faith.
follow
No, it's an idea.
It's a faith.
It's an idea that you can change your mind.
No, it's a faith. Like Christianity.
Like Scientology.
It's like all faiths.
Like
it's a religion, it's a faith.
Like Scientology?
So, Tommy,
idea.
if you accept...
It's an ideology.
If you're saying that the problem is with Islam, are you accepting that you're Islamophobic?
Because there are 100 verses in this...
Yes or no?
Okay.
Are you Islamophobic?
There's no such word as Islamophobia. Phobia is an irrational fear. It's not irrational to fear these things. Now, if I hold this book up and say, there will never be peace on this earth so long as we have this book, it's a violent and cursed book. That's
Can
I tell you who said that? Can I tell you who said that?
You put the
Sir William Gladstone said that.
You wouldn't do that with...
Sir William Gladstone
would you do that with the Bible? Show some respect.
Show some respect.
Show some respect.
Have you read this book?
For people...
Have you read this book?
There are over a billion people...
There are 100 verses in this book that incite violence and murder against us.
Show some damn respect for people's religious beliefs, right?
I should show some respect for a book that incites murder against me.
Put it down.
And calls me... This calls me an animal.
Let me break in here for just 1 second to just clarify something. This is one of the great misnomers, which really bothers me, especially as a rabbi. Would you say that about the Bible? Because the Bible talks about stoning people for certain violations or whatever it may be. And again, this is complete ignorance because the Torah also requires that you have 2 witnesses that warn a person within about 3 seconds of the violation and to see the person doing the violation in order to actually to put forth capital punishment, which is any intelligent person would never do. And therefore, it makes it virtually impossible to actually implement capital punishment. The reason why the Bible has capital punishment is for us to understand the severity of certain acts, even though ultimately capital punishment is very, very rarely implemented. As the Talmud says, that if a Jewish court, implemented capital punishment once in 70 years, it was called a murderous court. That's the reason why you don't see violence amongst Jews. That's the reason why. And you do see violence amongst Muslims.
No, I won't put it down. Sir William Gladstone held this book above his head in Parliament and he said there will never be peace on this earth so long as we have this book. It's a violent and cursed book. Was Sir William Gladstone, who we have statues across our capital C, was he a bigot or an Islamophobe?
See, now
Winston Churchill...
You're sounding like a complete
Winston
lunatic.
Churchill... No, I'm quoting previous, some of the best leaders in this country's
You're sounding
history.
like a bigoted lunatic.
No, I'm not.
Somebody that basically, you are an Islamophobe who hates Islam.
No, I don't
You basically
hate Islam.
think all Muslims are to blame. We've seen you on video saying it. And what you're doing now is deliberately inflammatory. It is deliberately poisonous.
How's this inflammatory?
And you are having the complete opposite effect to the one that you say you have.
William Gladstone.
You are stirring up hatred. You are abusing people's religion. You're abusing their faith. And you're being a complete disgrace.
What do you know about the Prophet Muhammad? We've established nothing. You are ignorant.
I know
of
that
this
you're
issue.
deliberately insulting
What do you know
people
about the Prophet?
who
How am
have-
I insulting people?
Who have deeply held religious beliefs.
And if they,
and you flouncing the Quran around in your hand in that disgraceful manner is outrageous.
This book is the reason we're in such a mess.
No.
That's a reality.
No, we're in this mess because people take Islam, they are terrorists, and they abuse the nature of Islam and the wording of Islam, and they perpetrate evil, and it is completely wrong.
Yeah.
For you to try and claim that the vast majority of Muslims, who are decent, law-abiding people, to try and abuse and mock their faith and their holy book is an outrage.
And
Their holy book. When you talk, okay, so when the sacred months have passed, slay the non-Muslims wherever you find them and take them captive and besiege them and prepare for them in ambush. Who's slaying who? I'm not inciting hatred. This calls for my death.
Representative of the Finsbury Park Mosque after 7 o'clock.
I have to say that this is quite terrifying, that you have two Westerners and they are so scared. This is where society has gone to, that they're so scared to in any way critique Islam, which has enormous violence in it, because of being called an Islamophobe, and that they are attacking Tommy Robinson as an Islamophobe only simply because he's saying that in our country that people are being violated every single day by this religion that has come into our country, which is teaching, and where they preach in their mosques that this is what we must do to Westerners. So you can't say this anymore. There's no room for protection. You know when Piers Morgan is going to join Tommy Robinson? When it's way too late.